Hi, it's Diswan here, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to play with some pastels and acrylic paints and merging the two together to create the soft girl that I created. So I'm just drawing here at the moment. If you like, you can skip ahead and go just to the pastel play, but I've also included the drawing of the girl. So I'm actually today using my circle plastic and to create the eyes, to actually get them equal, and so they help, as this is just a different style of eye I'm doing, which is drawing a circle, then using the circle partly as the eyelid as well as the pupil and iris, etc. So it just gives a different dimension for this whimsical girl that I've created here. So it's just a style that I've been playing with. So I was going to do larger eyes as you look in here, and I think that's probably where what I end up doing. But I'm playing here and trying to get the sizing right, rubbing out what I don't like, redoing, going around and around. And this is pretty standard for sketching when you're getting the base down. You may as well be happy with what you're doing before going on. So I'm now doing her hair, and what I decided was to put her hair into a plait. Not that I'm the best plait drawer, but what I've done is I've actually created it so it's almost like a sausage ponytail with different ties in each level of her hair. So she's put it up in a ponytail at the nape of her neck, and then added another band, and then another band, so forth down there. So she's a young girl, whimsical, looking up to, or looking behind her. She's got a slight smile on her face, and she seems happy with her life. So what I'm doing, I'm just going around the edges now with my archival pen, just adding in the bits that I'd like, doing her upper lid, doing the outlines of her lips, doing her nose and nostrils, and then I will just heat sink as I normally do with the archival to make sure it's dry, as the next step will be erasing, and I didn't want the pen to shift as I was doing this. So I rub off as much of the pencil marks as I can. Not that it bothers me that much, especially with the fact that I'll be using pastels, but because I decided to add the Liquitex clear gesso, which has tooth in it, so that the pastels will actually take to the card. So I finished painting that on. So I did dry this, so now I'm going to get my pastels and the acrylic paint that I'm going to use. So I brought a new pack of pastels. This is a 64 colours from Mungya. I got that from Amazon. I've been having a lot of fun purchasing off Amazon, but these have got some great colours. So, and because of the gesso that I've got on, it's really grabbing beautifully on, and so I'm just adding with the pastels the colour straight on, and this is almost a skin colour. It's slightly orange now looking at the film, but I was still very happy with the result. I was happy with the way the pastels worked. It didn't use a lot of pastels with these. You weren't wasting, it wasn't doing a lot of dust off, which is often the case when you're playing with pastels in a dry fashion. So I'm just adding the pastel as the first layer, And then I'm just going to add some colour to her eyes, and I've decided to go blue, and I'll add probably a couple of different colours to her eyes later. But now I'm going to add some shadow in, and by the looks of the way this is sitting, I've added the shadow to my right, and my right being I wear that watch on my right wrist, and so the light's coming there, that coming from the left, sorry, and so the shadow's going in on the right hand side. So I'm just adding some shadow with the actual pastel, and adding some pink rosy cheeks, making them a little bit deeper in the center. And then I'm going to add a rainbow material dress down there. So I'm just grabbing the pastels in roughly a rainbow blend, adding all the colours, blending it, rubbing it slightly into the colour before, so it's actually merging, and I'm doing that right across the dress, across to the sleeve. So my mistake probably here was the fact, unless she's wearing a very low poncho, that wouldn't have occurred when you're doing it in real life. You know, you wouldn't have this type of rainbow blend because the sleeve would have been cut out of a different piece of material. But I found it very effective, and I was quite happy with the final result of this when I get through to it. So I'm just doing a final blend after I just got the dust off my fingers. So getting rid of any excess dust. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just grabbing some water and putting it in a little jar that I have, which is just a nice size on the desk, and it's a glass jar, so it's quite easy to use. So I'm just grabbing some white acrylic, and I've just added some water to it, and I'm making it thinner than it was because that's the thick Dimensions Montmartre paint in titanium white. So what I'm doing with that acrylic is I'm going over and using the pastels, mixing it in, blending it with the pastels, which is one, sealing the pastels, but it's also, and in return the pastels are adding pigment to the white acrylic. So it's kind of a mix of two worlds here, and as you can see, it whitens the pastels that I've used, so it's actually lightened up the colouring. And the bonus with this is that I can continue adding and blending as you do with any sort of mixed media. So just finished with that, and I'm going to just give it a little bit of a clean, and now I'm going in with her neck and torso. So I've added a little bit, I thought, too much paint to her neck, but I'll fix that up later. So now doing the rainbow stripes was a little bit harder because I kept picking up the colour before, so this was a one stroke wonder down and trying, or going from left to right in one motion, so it didn't move anymore. So that ended up looking really cool. I was very happy with that result. I'm just going to dry that off so I don't smudge it. Give it all a dry, and those pigments in this particular pastel range is fantastic. I was really pleased. So now, because I no idea, but as usual you go through that stage, and I'm just adding extra white to her, and so that the actual neck and face are going to be the one colour. So I'll now add to the damp acrylic some more pastels, and I'll blend with my finger into that dampened pastel, the acrylic. So this will in the end create a I suppose it's almost like a pastel colouring, so it actually blends things back to what you would class as pastel colours. So I'll just continuing adding acrylic paint and pastels until I'm happy with the shading, etc. with her face. And I'm trying carefully not to lose too much, to sending too much of the marks on her face back too far, as I will have to redraw them at some point. So I'll give that a dry. Now this particular technique I actually picked up from Skillshare, and I used this for a little while, and while I love the service, I can't actually continue doing it, as it really hit my bandwidth hard, I'm pretty sure, is what ended up happening, because we've actually gone over our bandwidth 2 months in a row, where previously we weren't, and that included doing occasional uploads for YouTube. So I'm back to doing visits to friends and family that have more unlimited bandwidth, so I can actually or unlimited data, so I can actually do some uploads from there. So I've just given her hair a base colour, if you remember in the picture that of her, this isn't her final colour, but I'm just now adding the base, so she's actually got a colour in behind. So yeah, it's this type of work is a process, and I'm now going to go over where I know it's dry, get her actual bodice and her neck into been outlined, so I can retain that particular part. Go around her face again, recapture the lines that are there so I know where to put the shading, etc. And making sure that her hair is outlined, so it adds some depth there as well. So, and as you can see, I'm not doing, in some areas I'm not doing a perfect line, I'm doing it kind of sketchy, and that's fine. So redoing her little mouth and her little nose, going over her eyes and reshaping, adding her pupil again. And the more you draw, it kind of goes a little bit different in shaping, but it's still working. So now I'm adding some purple for a shadow onto the face to add a little bit darker shadow there. And I don't know if you've noticed, but on the arm I actually made a mistake. That shadow shouldn't be in front, it should actually be behind. But sometimes when you're doing these things, you often will make those little errors. So I've just added some red to her lips, adding a different shade, adding another shade of blue to her eyes, and I continue through that. Added a bit of black to her pupil using a pastel and blending that in, doing a bit more shading with a black so it's actually a little bit darker around those areas, and just highlighting her facial features using that pastel. Pastels are so fun, but they can be so messy but fun at the same time. And I've had a bit of a play with pastels straight as, or with this method using acrylic paint to actually blend them in and use them as the pigment for the actual acrylics, which I find quite rewarding, in the sense that I actually think it works quite well. So I've just gone around the edge everywhere using the black, and it does kind of pop her out a little bit on the page. So now I'm just going to add some, oh, looks like I've just received my coffee because there's my teddy bear biscuit. So I'm just adding her cheeks again, adding a bit more black to her dress in this pastel, and just blending that as well. Eating my biscuit, can't beat beat a chocolate coated teddy bear, can you? So I've got out the fan brush, and I'm using that to dust her off a little bit, just to so I can see what I've got there and whether to add more layers. So now I'm coming in with another, it's probably like a salmon, and just adding that around the edges to give her a little bit more, hopefully, natural colour to her face. And I guess I'm having a slug of coffee there. Or no, I've actually got a sponge out. So I've actually got a sponge out, which actually, because I've forgotten what I did with this, to be honest, because it was the 13th of the 7th. It's now the 12th of August. So big difference in dates. So I'm now adding some yellow to her hair, as I wanted her to actually be more of a orangey blonde. So Albany blonde or something, I'm not sure. Raspberry blonde, is it? Yeah, so I'm just adding this, and it's actually looking rather golden from this angle on the film. So more blending, lots of dirty fingers, grey hair showing as I'm popping in and out on the overhead. So now I'm going to add some background tone, I think. And first I'm going to grab the acrylic and just go over the back with what I've got. It looks like that's actually gone slightly green. That's rather interesting. So I'm going to just add a little bit of that blue, and I'm not doing it the same colour right through. I'm going to blend it differently in different areas, but I'm just going around her so that the background will hopefully pop back and she pops more forward. But I'm just going around as carefully as I can around where I've done, because it will pick up though that black pastel that I've put on. Sorry, I'm out of camera there, but it's possibly because sometimes when you get into your artwork and you're actually concentrating, you forget that you're actually recording. So that way kind of went out of the thing, out of the background. So I just gave the table a bit of a wipe down, and now I'm just coming in around the hair from the right hand side, adding a bit more acrylic in through there. So this is using one of the mixed media brushes from Diane, and they're actually really great brushes, and I think from what Diana says, she actually created these so that it didn't matter if you left them in the water. And yes, they do stand up to that, as I'm very similar in that particular trait. So now I'm going back in with some of the pastels, lightening up her hair, and blowing off some of the dust as I'm going. I'm very happy with the actual material on her off the shoulder dress. She's actually quite simple to draw. Now if you're interested in learning to draw, I actually learnt to do a lot of my figures from Karen Campbell, and she actually gave, but from watching Karen and doing some of Karen's tutorials that she does on YouTube, I got my confidence back in to do my ladies, and they change a little bit to the mood I'm in, whereas some places I will just give her a little button nose like she's got at the moment. I've given her really big round eyes here, and it's just a case of what feels right for the moment, I suppose. Like you've seen my other girls, and they all have a slightly different look to them. So it kind of, yeah, kind of goes to what you want to try out. And at the moment I was trying to see about using that circle stencil plastic tool there, so that I can actually get wider, bigger eyes for the whimsical. So I've just, the green that I placed in her hair, I'm actually kind of blending that out from her hair into the background, and now I'm going to add some blue as well, and I'm going to get the bigger brush back, and I'm going to blend that in with that green that I've just pulled from her hair, and blend the two there as the background colour, which is coming up quite good, I think. So basically what has been achieved here using the acrylic paint is you've sealed your pastels. Except for the ones that are currently on her face, it is sealed. So like I've just sealed her hair with the acrylic going over. I've just sealed what I've put into the background, and it means that you don't have to do a fixative later, using either hairspray or a proper fixative that you can purchase from craft stores. This actually gives you a different, and well, it gives a different texture too. So it's when it actually dries, it doesn't dry fully like a acrylic. It's probably more matte, as the pastels are so dusty. It's probably really does turn into a more matte finish, but I really like the effect. I really like the tones that ended up coming through. I was very happy with the final result. Now basically what I'm doing is playing. I'm not taking it seriously. I just wanted to play with the pastels and the acrylics, and I wanted to share that with you. So sitting here thinking or doing something, I'm not sure. I look quite serious there with my hands clutched. So I don't know, because I didn't keep the sound recording of the actual video. I don't know what I was doing there. So I'm adding more colour in her hair to try to make it look a little bit more natural, but not at the same time, as it is what's classed as a cartoony character. But you have a lot of leeway when you're doing these type of girls and how you want to play with it. So I've gone off somewhere in another direction. What am I doing now? No idea. I must have been playing with the iPad, because the iPad's off to the right hand side there, so sorry about that. Something drew my attention away. So I'm still thinking and looking and working out where my next stage is going to be, continuing to blend these pastels, because pastels really do blend well when you're actually got the momentum up of it, and it really adds. So I've just taken that off to dust that off, and because it does, the layering, it does do a lot of dust, and it actually tickles my nose after a while. And it I know when I played with it in the lounge room, it was very dusty, but it is fun. It is fun to play with pastels, and I'd like to thank my sister, as she kind of got me back into playing with them. I had some pastels and I used them, originally the pastels I brought, the smaller packet that I had, I brought them to colour my hair. As you can use this chalk, you run it down the hair, it cuts into it really, but it actually leaves colour in your hair. Probably do even more so now that my hair is getting very white. So now, talking of white, I'm just adding a off-white to bring out her nose area and her eyes, the whites of her eyes. Well, they're not. Well, that's where I can argue they're actually not white. When you're doing them properly, it's probably a bluey grey, and you got to remember that eyelids will create shadow over the whites, and your forehead, depending on the size, will add shadow over your eyes. Your hair will add shadow over your eyes. So they're all the little things you can think of while you're doing these sort of art pieces. I think I'm drinking coffee. I'm pretty sure I'm drinking coffee and looking at the moment, so I'm not doing anything. Gotta have your coffee. Need your coffee. So this was probably done at about a bit after 11 o'clock on the 13th. And so now I'm looking, I love these colours of the pastels, so I'm actually now just doing an edge with a darker blue. I think the reason I stop is my husband is coming in and talking to me, so, which is fine, but I've got to remember to probably cut it out when I'm doing the video. But I'm sitting here relaxed doing a voiceover for you and just watching and having a giggle at my actions when I'm recording a video. It's quite entertaining, or for me it is anyway. So I've had so now that it's the 12th of August in the year 2020, so this is almost a month since I recorded this in July. I pumped out quite a few pieces in July, and I've slowed down a little bit now that I've got into August. I suppose another month, and you know, we're still shut down here in Tassie. I know a couple of my sons, or all three of my sons, would like to come home for a visit and they can't. You know, one's in Victoria, but thank goodness he doesn't live in the CBD. He lives quite 2 hours out of the CBD, so he's not as in much risk where he is, but it's still a worry. It's still a worry at this moment with this new stage of this pandemic, and you get worried as a mother. You get worried, but I know they're being safe. They're being careful. I didn't raise silly boys, so they are looking after themselves and doing what they need to do with their own families and their own responsibilities. And Jesse, he's in, so actually mentioning names, so my youngest son, he's in New South Wales. He actually lives near the CBD, as his partner is a doctor, and so she's working there. And my oldest is up in Queensland, and he's safe. Kids are safe. And my daughter's here with us, so we get to see her. Thank goodness for video chat. We can chat with family on the mainland via video. It's, you know, either if it's Snapchat or Google Duo or FaceTime. Those sort of apps have helped a lot, I suppose, for a lot of families to stay in touch. And I suppose YouTube can as well, so because I know they all have a look at what I do, even though none of them leave comments at the bottom. Would be nice. Not many people actually do leave comments these days. I suppose I was actually thinking about that when I was watching Marimi Small Art's video, when she was talking about this type of media and stuff, the fact that the changes in YouTube create. So at the moment, you're not being recommended to come back into certain artists because of the numbers that they've got, etc. And everything like comments makes a difference, likes makes a difference to the fact that you're actually getting notifications. So she actually recommended that we unfollowed her and then refollow, just to get the bonus of seeing what she's doing properly. But I always check my subscriptions anyway, so I know who's bringing out new videos at all times. So it would be appreciative if you could like and comment if you have a way of doing so. I know when you're watching it via smart TVs, you can actually do it, but some people aren't aware that you do a down arrow and then move across, and you can actually see the likes, but you can't comment. So now I'm actually, sorry, I've gone on to another stage here. I've actually added some of the creamy pastels from Jane Davenport. That's what I was trying to do, because my colours weren't quite right. I was having a bit of a struggle with these colours, and it looks like I'm blending it all back, and I'm going back to the start with the colours in her face. as you can see. Oops, now we got a very red face. So just wipe that back a bit. Oh, look, there's the... And see, it's actually one of the bonuses. I'm not sure if you are aware, but what's happening here is I'm going back quite a way to a stage where I'd already put the acrylic paint on, and I've gone backwards because I've done so many layers over the top. Using a wipe, I've actually gone back about probably 6 layers. So what, we've been recording here for 30 minutes, so I've probably gone back 20 minutes worth of work. Just wiped all that off. Yeah, let's just start again. So now I'm going in with the Jane Devonport skin tone, nice creamy. Oh, they're very creamy. They're lovely to work with, and because I'm very picky with my shading on my girls. If they don't look right, I'm never happy. So that's probably a good thing. I'm doing this so I can get it right. So I'm just adding some shading. And the bonus with Jane's these pastels, you can actually get a nice reasonably fine line to do a nice border around. And yeah, they're about as creamy as the gelatos, and they're really good to work with, and they're fun to play with. But it looks like I've forgotten my soft pastels. Well, these are still soft. They're just a different type. So in I go with purple. Purple actually adds a really great shading to faces. I'm not sure of the reasons why, but they do. It really, really does. If you actually do your shading first, which is what really, you should do. You do your shading, and then you work out from there, and you add a bit more. It's different things. So, excuse my sniffing. So it really adds a really nice dimension to it. So now I'm coming in with the light skin tone and pushing and blending that in with the actual shadows that I've got there. And there goes the nose, it's disappeared. Over to the face. Now what I really wanted to do was to show you how working with soft pastels, and it does work, but I think I was using the wrong brush. I think that's what it was, and then I lost it, and so I've gone the easy way out to get my skin colours, and I've brought in another tool. See, there's so many tools you can use to get skin colours. You can use pencils, and you can use the Faber-Castell Pitt pens, you can use Tombow, and skin tone pencil, skin tone pastels. There's so many skin tone items out there. If you have a look on, say, Amazon, and actually just look up skin tones or flesh tones, you'd be surprised with how many different products come out. Montmartre now in the Dimension range have a flesh coloured Dimension paint. Haven't tried it, but I know it exists. So I have so many different tools now to do faces, including soft pastels. So soft pastels, these gel pastel sticks that I'm using at the moment, gelatos, I've got skin tone in there, and and when you think about it, if I decided to do her as a green skinned person, you've got all those as well, because all you need is different shades of green to get the shadowing. Probably add a blue here and there. You've got skin tone. So you really, the only thing stopping you is you. So have fun with your items. And to be honest, every art piece has an ugly time, and she had her ugly moments, and at the moment, by the looks of it, she's too dark, but that's my thought. So she's too dark for her hair colour. So that's me looking back though. I still love her. She's sitting in my little folder that holds some of my loose arts, and I think she's whimsical. I'd love to know why I drew her looking the way she is, like she's looking over her shoulder. I'm sure there's a reason behind, and I'm actually, here we go, this is actually a gelato I've just got out here to put in the blue of her eyes, and just cleaning up a little bit with a smaller brush. So in with a bit of white gelato. I don't have the Jane Davenport other colours which has a white in it, I think. So, but the gelato blends beautifully with them, so they actually work together really well. So up comes the black. Add a little bit of black to her eye. Just have to be careful, but it's quite manageable. If you do things on different angles, you can get that small dot with something that's quite fat. So now coming in with, again, Jane Davenport's tool. This is her like a fountainy style pen, but it's used for this type of thing, as it's a permanent, and it writes over everything as it's a brush ink, and it works really, really well to do this type of edging on top of gelatos, which are water-based. So, and as well as Jane Davenport's, the skin pastels, they are water-based, so it means that if I add a water to it, it will actually reblend. So I'm adding her eyelashes, doing the black around her eyes there, adding a bit more black to her pupils, coming in with her nose. There it is. Bringing in her mouth so you can see her smile. Adding a few more lashes, giving her a little bit more whimsical look to her. She really got into doing her eyes, I think. And I actually find it easier doing the eyes upside down like this. This is what I learned from this particular piece, was the fact that doing my eyelashes upside down, I could actually do them better from the top going down rather than the bottom going up. So now I'm going to do all the edges with this, as I'm slowly learning how to control it. As it's a soft, it's like a brush. That's basically what it is. So it's a brush pen. So it's a case of that if you press too hard, you get a thicker line. If you press lightly, you get a nice fine line like I'm getting at the moment. So I'm just going to go around her face. Highlight her hair a little bit so you can see the edging. Down to her chest, and just highlight her dress a little bit. Love to wear this type of dress. It looks like a caftan, but it's really off her shoulders there. And just, so I'm not actually, around her hair, I'm actually not doing a full line. I'm actually doing a broken line, so it actually isn't so defined, and I actually like that. I actually like the result. So I'm just going in again with a bit more white for her, the whites of her eyes. And I've noticed I actually didn't give her eyebrows. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, must be, I have no idea. Where have we gone? It's there somewhere. Oh, back again. Sometimes you have to pick it up and look at it from different angles for these sort of pieces to see whether you think, because there is something missing. I'm not sure what, but to my thoughts there's something missing, and that's what I'm holding onto at the moment. There's just something missing from this. Right, so I decided it was some wording, so this is one that I created, and create every day. Now that's what I've actually been trying to do. I have been trying to at least do this size, which is an A5 piece, and I've been putting it in my art pages box, but I haven't for the last few days, so I thought a bit of video editing might get my inspiration and my mojo back, and work from there. So I've just gone around the outside and done a blotchy sort of lines. As you can see, I haven't gone into the background with massive colours and decoupage or stamps or anything like that. I've left it quite standard. This must be my date stamp, just getting out. Yes, as I always date my pieces mainly so I can see it. So I've just grabbed one of Tim Holtz's stencils, and I'm grabbing the bit of white paint that I have left over, and I'm dabbing it through onto the florally part of this stencil. So I'm not going over the top one, I'm actually using the florally one just to add a bit of dimension to that area. Well, yeah, I like that. Just going over and making sure, and just getting a bit more. My Garmin just told me, I brought a new watch, my Garmin just told me I need to get up and move, so I'll do that in a second, as soon as I finish doing this. A bit more paint, dab, 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 through there. And as you see, I avoided herself, and kind of adds like a feather, doesn't it? Yep, okay, so that's that done. Packing things away by the looks of that, and that's it. So thank you for visiting me, and I hope you come again soon. Happy crafting! Hi, and thank you for watching my latest video. If you'd like to see more, click subscribe. Please click the like button and to let me know that you enjoyed it, and comment below if you'd like to see anything new. So thank you for coming, and happy crafting. Bye!